Tonight, supermarket giant Woolworths suffers a loss of almost $1 billion.
Aussie travellers on high alert in Bali. New information suggests a terror attack is imminent.
The world's best big wave surfers drop in for a perfect Pacific storm.
And the Newcastle Knights make NRL history, naming 3 captains.
This is NBN News with Natasha Beyersdorf and Paul Lobb.
Good evening. Tourists are being urged to rethink trips to Indonesia after a warning from our government that terrorists are in the advanced stages of planning a new attack. Popular areas of Bali, Lombok and Jakarta all come with increased risk from returning Islamist fighters from Syria. A 22-year-old Southport man has been shot twice at close range after answering a knock at his front door last night. The man was shot once in the abdomen and once in the thigh and remains in hospital with non-life-threatening injuries.
There was a couple of bang bang and that was it, that's all. His flatmate was in a bit of a panic. It's a bit of a shock actually, it's so close, you know.
Police are appealing for anyone who may have seen a man in dark-coloured clothing running from the scene in Warrando Street to come forward.
Lifeguards have been stretched to breaking point with challenging rescues despite every local beach being closed. The extremely dangerous swell is the biggest of the year and is already carving up our coast, but the worst is yet to come.
Gold Coast Police have launched an investigation after video emerged of a violent arrest in Surfers Paradise showing 22-year-old Paul Tupu Folasa being arrested on Valentine's Day. Police allege the man was forcibly resisting arrest. His brother is also accused of carrying a knife. The pair faced court this morning but planned to fight the allegations they assaulted police. Meanwhile, Gold Coast officers have launched their own investigation and confirmed the 2 constables involved are experienced but will now be questioned.
Prior to the release of that footage last night, the police service was not aware of the incident nor had any complaint in relation to the matter being received.
The Queensland Police Union has also reviewed the footage and is standing by the officers involved.
A man accused of murdering his pregnant ex-girlfriend at Varsity Lakes last year has been committed to stand trial. Brock Wall is accused of bludgeoning Brazilian national Fabiana Polares with a tomahawk, also killing her unborn child. Today in court, prosecutors tendered more than 150 witness statements. Wall remains in custody.
An Air Force student who lost his hand in a horrific bus accident last year has returned to the air. North Coast man Nathan Parker, who now has a prosthetic limb, says his recovery was driven by the chance to get back into the cockpit.
Still to come tonight, another mass shooting in the US. A man goes on a killing spree at his Kansas workplace.
A disgruntled worker has gone on a shooting rampage in Kansas, killing 3 workmates and injuring 15 others. Police say the gunman, a 38-year-old man who may have been recently sacked, picked his targets at random.
Ahead in the news, football's scandal-plagued ruling body voting for a new boss.
And Premier Baird backs another medicinal cannabis trial.
The BBC failed to stop decades of sexual abuse by Jimmy Savile because of a culture of fear, an inquiry has found. The report claims staff were reluctant to speak to managers about complaints.
Celebrities were treated with kid gloves and were virtually untouchable. One witness told me that the talent were more valuable to the BBC than their own values.
Savile abused 72 victims at the network between the 1960s and 1980s, but died in 2011 without ever facing charges.
It's been a difficult year for the World Game, and tonight 5 candidates are vying to replace Sepp Blatter as the head of FIFA. The former president stood down amid a corruption scandal, and now it's just hours until delegates vote in his successor. Of the 5 candidates, the frontrunners are Europe's Gianni Infantino and Asia's Sheikh Salman.
A cannabis capsule could provide desperately needed relief for chemotherapy patients who suffer nausea and vomiting. The Baird government today announced a clinical trial for those who haven't responded well to traditional treatment.
To finance, and the share market has finished flat amid weakness in the resources sector. BHP Billiton lost 41 cents, while gold miner Newcrest gained 66. The big banks were mixed. ANZ closed slightly higher and NAB dropped 14 cents, while Woolworths shares picked up after losing ground earlier during trading. One Australian dollar is buying 72 US cents and 81 yen.
Well, now to Gavin Morris for a quick look at the weather. And Gav, how's the start of the weekend looking?
Well, it should be a lot cooler along the coast than what we've experienced over the last few days. Still very warm inland. We should see a bit of a drop in temperatures as well. But this weekend, we're going to have a very large, dangerous swell. Let's just go to the charts and we'll see what's happening. We've got two swells gelling here. We've got that monster swell from ex-tropical cyclone Winston in the north, and we've got the new southerly swell that's been linking up with that. So there's going to be a lot of water moving around up and down the coast. So some pretty dangerous rips and currents, etc., for people wanting to hit the beaches. There'll probably be numerous ones closed. We've got some pretty big tides, so we're going to see coastal erosion as well. But I'll take a closer look at the showers and the windier conditions for the coast that are expected over the next couple of days soon.
Thanks, Gav. Coming up, a 50-metre trail of asbestos-laden material dumped near homes.
And in sport, Anthony Watmoe dismisses retirement talk despite a chronic knee injury.
A Sydney council has released security video of asbestos being illegally dumped on a suburban road, hoping it'll lead to the culprits being found. The Mayor of Parramatta wants those responsible paraded in court, and residents are just as fed up.
Time for sport now, and he's been one of rugby league's hardest players. But Anthony Watmoe's time in the game is now in question. The 32-year-old says he's confident a knee complication won't be the end of him and that retirement is a distant thought.
Coming up later in the bulletin, Hawaii 5-0, the world's best tackle 50-foot monsters.
And we're live from the ninth season launch with three men named to succeed skipper Kurt Gidley.
They say two heads are better than one, but it seems the Newcastle Knights are going one better when it comes to their captains. The club is tonight launching its 2016 NRL season in Newcastle. Samuel Jordan joins us live from the launch, and Sam, they've named three new skippers.
Australia's Nick Kyrgios will face Stan Wawrinka for the first time since their infamous on-court blow-up last year. The 20-year-old secured his spot in the semi-finals at the Dubai Tennis Championships with a two-set victory over world number 7 Thomas Berdych. It was Kyrgios's 8th straight win.
Coming up, big names and big scores despite a blown-out conditions at Newcastle's Surf Fest.
Tonight's Sport Report is brought to you by Ladbrokes. Bet better.
Super Snacks. Supermarket sausages put to the ultimate consumer test. How Aldi's brands grilled the opposition. See the results. A current affair next.
Praise for Jared Hayne from the new San Francisco 49ers coach, Chip Kelly, who's revealed he's excited to work with the former league star. General Manager Trent Bulk also backed the Hayne plan to...
Sally Fitzgibbons and Stephanie Gilmore have continued their progression at Newcastle's Surf Fest today, both winning their heats. But there were some big-name exits in the men's draw, with Jack Freestone sent packing. Still on Surfest, and it's been a disappointing day in the water for Far North Coast surfers. Lennox Head's Stu Kennedy was eliminated from his round 4 heat, less than a quarter of a point shy of progressing. Byron Bay's Solly Bailey was also sent packing with a two-wave score of 10.43.
Now it's over to our guest reporter, B. Durbidge. He caught up with Joel Parkinson ahead of his 16th year on the World Tour.
I'm sitting here with Joel Parkinson, Quicksilver Pros coming up. How are you feeling, Joel?
Feel good. We've been lucky enough to have this amazing run of waves.
They've stepped up against the bigger sides in recent weeks. Now Jets coach Scott Miller wants his side to put the Mariners season to the sword in the F3 Derby on Sunday.
I guess for me it will demonstrate that there's progress, but more importantly that the Jets are not focused just on beating the Mariners but really pushing for the final.
Returning to news now, and the tragic loss of their 13-year-old son 2 years ago has led a Lake Macquarie family on a campaign to equip local schools and sporting clubs to deal with life-threatening medical emergencies. Josh Caruso was walking to school when his heart stopped. He collapsed and died from an undiagnosed heart condition. His parents established a foundation in his memory and through ongoing fundraising efforts have so far donated more than 30 defibrillators or heart starters, the latest to Waratah Public School in Newcastle.
More than 400 ladies and a few brave blokes have celebrated International Women's Day in Lismore. The luncheon was hosted by Page MP Kevin Hogan's wife Karen, with proceeds donated to Alzheimer's Australia. Well-known media personality Ita Buttrose was the guest speaker at the event.
But I think anything that brings us all together so that we can talk collectively is a benefit.
She spoke about the media industry and her time as editor-in-chief at Clio magazine.
Stay with us for the weather details coming up next.
Tonight's weather report brought to you by Victory Ford on the Tweed.
Time to get the very latest on our weather now with Gav.
Thank you very much, Paul. It's been an extraordinary week and the cyclone swell really jacking up throughout today, and there's more to come. It's going to peak tomorrow. First of all, though, Eddie Groot, well, you caught just about every sunset colour possible in this shot, looking to the west from Jimmy's Beach, which is near Hawk's Nest on the northern side of Port Stephens, a beautiful part of the world. Rain falling over central Australia over the past 24 hours and the north, a little bit in the west. It has been clear, sunny and very dry and hot. Incredibly hot right throughout the majority of the east. There is Winston. Winston's been creating this really strong pressure gradient in between that and the high over the nation. So that's why we've seen the swell hit us all week. But now Winston is closer and we're getting the swell now directly off the core of that system. It has weakened a lot, but it's still a big pressure gradient there that's generating a lot of fast moving air that is creating that swell. There's a southerly that's been moving up the coast throughout today, and with Winston offshore, the southerly is really going to jack up for us, and we're going to have some pretty powerful winds. It's going to get really, really windy overnight throughout tomorrow and across the weekend. And there's some wet weather wrapped up in this. It'll be hitting mostly the New South Wales coast throughout tomorrow, but then it's really going to slam into us during the early part of next week. So be prepared for some solid falls. We'll have some heavy showers there a little bit Sunday, but more so Monday, Tuesday of next week, getting really wet because of that system. Looks like it's just going to want to sit off the coast. It's certainly one to pay attention to because it may come straight in as well. You've still got this big horseshoe trough over Australia, so now it's very hot in the west with storms for Perth, storms right across the top end along that trough line. The Alice there, high 30s, cooler throughout the southeastern for Sydney, but Brisbane's still going to be quite hot and very humid. It's going to be very muggy. Temperatures today, it was hot in Byron, right throughout the southeast. Those winds just capping off the temperatures a little bit there throughout the southeast, only tops of 29 from Coolangatta to the Gold Coast, but we hit the low to mid-30s, 33s there from Logan City along the M1 up to Brisbane. The humidity's up, pressure down slightly, southeasterly winds still moderate at this point. Looking at tomorrow's forecast rain, nothing much at first. At the moment, we're still moving through our dry phase. The wet phase is getting ready to move in, so make the most of the dry conditions because it is going to switch off. The winds are going to, well, be turned all the way up to 11. They'll be cranking on in out of the south throughout tomorrow, so getting really, really gusty over the next couple of days with the ex-tropical cyclone Winston hovering offshore in that style. Looking at tomorrow's forecast, you've got the cloud, you've got the moisture, still very, very warm with gusty southerly winds, and and a little shower possible, but predominantly fine for now. There's the swell. It's going to be big. It's still coming straight in almost on big, long lines. Throughout the Tasman, we've got two swells that have been gelling, the southerly swell and Winston's swell. So it is pretty nasty offshore with strong wind warnings being issued for southeast waters. The low tides in the morning about 4:38, working to the high. We've got really big tides switching up and down overnight through this weekend. Biggest tides of the year. We're going to see a lot of coastal erosion, so be warned. It is going to be nasty if you're on the water over the weekend. Over the next few days, we're going to lose a lot. Sun's up at about 5:37 and down at 6:21 as that moon wanes away. Dangerous boating conditions offshore, crossing bars, rock fishing, not recommended at all. Powerful surf conditions, strong rips and currents. Take care. It's dangerous out there for now, so stick within those protected waters. That's my tip for the weekend. So looking at this forecast, there's the wet weather. I think it's going to be wetter than it suggests there, and I think there's a greater chance. I'd put it down as a 100% chance of rain there, particularly on Monday and Tuesday, and we may see some pretty big falls as well. Some heavy showers moving through. We could have some flash flooding with the remnants of ex-tropical cyclone Winston potentially pushing in across our coastline. So just be warned on that one as well. That's probably not truly representative of what is capable into early next week. Let's go to the surf vision. What a week. It has just been crazy. Amazing to hear. The surf break has been working 24/7 with all of the moonlight out there, but now it's so big, it is dangerous, and that can happen easily. Come unstuck, get pushed in across the rocks. It is by far now for experts only and super fit surfers. You do not want to get caught out there. It's very powerful. The rips, and look at that break. It's been rolling all the way through. It got so big this afternoon, started to shut down somewhat, and there's a lot less board riders out there now. For your local news story catch-up, just log on.
Thanks, Gav. Finally tonight, hurricane-force winds have produced incredible waves on Hawaii's North Shore for the famed Eddie Aikau Invitational.
Just plain scary.
Yeah. Cowabunga for sure.
Spirit of Eddie lives on.
That is the latest news.
Have a great weekend.
Good night.
Good night.